Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Life and Data. Today, we're excited to have with us Joshua Wong, content strategist and technical writer at Scalar Labs. Today, we deep dive into his passion for technology and writing, and also, as a longtime expat in Japan, what brought him there, and finally, his thoughts on the evolution of data. Please enjoy. Hey, Josh, how you doing?
Hey Joe, pretty good. How about you?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us today. Excited to have you here
Yeah,
for
thanks
our
for
second
inviting me.
episode.
Yeah, the first
So,
episode that you had was great. I had a really good time listening to Akon.
oh, that's good. Yeah, that's excellent. I'm glad we have somebody from our company doing the second episode just to show folks what the culture's like and how living in Japan's like.
Right, halfway around the world
Yeah.
from where you
What
are.
time
Yeah.
is it there now?
Oh, we've got about 3:17 in the afternoon, so
Okay, I think
still
it's
got half the day.
11:17, I guess,
11:17 p.m. Yeah.
PM.
Wow.
The day before.
The day before. I'm living in the future, I guess.
Yes, you are. So yeah, yeah. Again, thanks for joining us. Just wanted to, ask you, of course, life in Japan because I no longer live there, but you've been living there quite a long time. I want to talk to you about data and where you think data is headed. I want to talk to you about how you got your start in IT. So I think maybe we'll start with where your journey began. Where did you grow up? How was childhood like? And when did you start getting into um, technical work and documentation?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, growing up, I grew up in Seattle, kind of like in the Seattle area. So growing up, it was the 80s, the 90s, and start hearing a lot about Microsoft and tech companies in general around the Seattle area. And had my first computer, I think. Well, actually, the first computer I had, I remember, was an old green screen Mac. I think we had that from my aunt. Got it from my aunt when I was probably about 3 or 4 years old. Played games on it. Obviously, that's pretty much all I did. But then once high school hit, that's when, we started having computer classes and things like that and having to, write papers, on the computer, which is kind of, being in the Seattle area or my high school wanted to be kind of at the forefront of doing things like that.
That must have been
Um,
like Word 3.1 or something like that back in the
it
day.
was, yeah, a very primitive form of Word where I vividly remember writing my high school paper and forgetting to save and it crashed and I had to write it all over again.
Oh man, I remember those days, right? I was about to say yesterday, I had an issue with the document and thank God it has this history thing that you could go back to.
Exactly.
And you could go back to any edit that you did. And I was just reflecting back on back in the day,
Yeah.
you had to like basically spam the save button.
Right. That's exactly what happened after that. Like after, luckily, I was writing the paper at the last minute, so everything was still fresh in my head. Um,
Yeah.
but from that moment, it was just I had this habit of even now just clicking on Windows, like Control S for saving. I would do that, every 1 or 2 minutes, maybe multiple times a minute, just to make sure that things were being saved. So obviously when a feature like that gets built into Microsoft Word, which probably got put in like in the early 2000s, yeah, I was pretty happy that that was kind of a new feature, but I still hit the Control Save button or Control S button to save. So
That's funny. The things we take for granted now.
yeah, yeah,
Kids will never understand.
that and the good old dial-up sound. I actually missed that. I should make it like a little personal project to have that set up every time I, open like a web browser or something like that.
That's
Just,
hilarious.
you
Yeah.
know,
The old AOL login sound.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it kind of started from there. And then yeah, got my first laptop. And it kind of really started like the getting more into kind of the technical aspect was when I got my first laptop. Obviously, we started having like Wi-Fi issues at home because nobody really knew how to set up Wi-Fi. And I think it was with Windows XP SP2 when that got released. For some reason, like me and my sister, we had the same laptop and we couldn't connect to our Wi-Fi anymore. So I sat there and I was troubleshooting kind of the network and the router that we had. And while doing that, I was like having to write down exactly what steps to take if when if the signal gets lost again, which actually happened quite a few times after that. But luckily, like being able to write that stuff down, I was able to like refer back to it and then kind of get my sister's laptop back online and get mine back online as well. Um,
Was that like an aha moment? Like, oh wow, I think people need this, or was it later on?
well, actually, maybe even going back a little bit further, I remember watching my mom cook, or she was like making a dessert. It wasn't a cake, but maybe it was like some kind of like a pineapple upside down cake or something like that. And she was looking at the index cards back in the day. We used index cards for recipes.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember just being amazed that she would look at this very, short list of ingredients and a specific way of making it, like, setting the oven to 350 degrees, things like that. And so it got me thinking like, oh wow, like people write stuff down to refer to later as instructions, and she was saying like she got the recipe from her mother. So just the idea of like you write something kind of for yourself, but it's actually somebody else's idea, and that kind of gets passed down for reference. So I thought that was pretty cool. And that's always stuck with me. Like the idea of, whether you're writing for yourself or you're writing for even your future self, which is kind of somebody else in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
or you're writing for somebody else. There's a lot of angles to look at. So I think that's really cool.
I find that people who do documentation and have that personality, they're very organized and they keep notes and they do diaries or they reflect back on paper.
Yeah, that's I do
I
that a
don't know if
lot.
you do that, but
Yeah, I've actually got I've started being a little bit more consistent with my note taking in the past 3 years. So I've got, yeah, I have a daily journal where I journal the dream that I had the night before.
oh, well,
I
okay.
probably see dreams 3 out of 4 nights a week. So it's kind of cool to write them down and just
That's interesting. Yeah, lucid dreamings will be an interesting topic to get into, but yeah.
lucid dreaming is one I've had, I think, 2 times, and that's a very interesting experience. Um, But yeah, yeah, like writing down dreams and then just kind of, looking back, trying to put the pieces together, like, oh, why did I have this dream, but it's stuff like that inside of my notes, but it's also just like personal projects. So like recently actually yesterday, I finally got my Japanese permanent residence residency yesterday.
Oh wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
So thanks. Yeah, yeah. That was a very long process because of how many I think because how many kind of inbound visitors are coming to Japan.
Yeah.
So what was supposed to be a 6 to 12 month process ended up being almost 19 months.
Oh well.
But the the process of doing it is obviously listed on the government website. So they have like it's very detailed, except for it's very confusing for people who aren't familiar with the process. So I documented everything that, in my case, that I needed to get. And yeah, it was a pretty long document. And kind of I did it for myself just because I thought like, oh, I might need to refer to this in case I don't pass for some reason.
Yeah.
But I actually ended up giving it to a friend who's in a similar situation as me. And he used the same steps and he actually got his permanent residence as well. So
Yeah.
all the, instructions and where to pick up things that I had written down for myself, I just passed on to him and he was able to follow the same instructions and get it. He actually got it before me. He got his within like, I think 6.5 months or something like that because he went to a quieter branch of the immigration office. So
But that's great that you're actually, you're rewriting, you're writing things in a, I guess, a less convoluted way.
trying to, and it's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think personal bias my gets personal bias is in, whatever your background is, your education, or what you believe people need to know
Right.
versus this is the, I think this is the topic of perception versus reality. Like when
Right.
I write things down, I do this a lot in Slack. I'll write down all this stuff and send it out.
Mhm.
And the person would write me a question going, "What about this?" And I'm like, "Oh shoot, why didn't I write that?
Right.
I thought I covered everything."
Right. Right. And
And
sometimes,
cutting through all the BS and getting to the core crux of things and then explaining that in a concise manner is a very, very, I think, niche skill and very good skill to have, right?
yeah, and it's definitely something that, takes practice and like you just kind of demonstrated like trial and error. You think there's been times where I think like, oh, maybe I don't need to mention this. Well, I'll just forget it. In a Slack message, I don't need to mention this. But then somebody asks the question for it, and you think like, oh, I was thinking about adding it, but I didn't think you needed to know that information.
Yeah. Even our short interaction the other night when you're telling me that, hey, let's go through and list out the documentation websites on
Mm-hmm.
the YouTube videos.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And you were telling me, as I just copied and pasted things. And then one of the things I copied and pasted, you said, oh, hold on. Hero would probably think about this in this way. So let's change that URL to a different URL because I could
Right.
already foresee the question that's coming.
Right. Right.
And
Just
I
kind
think
of.
that takes some skill.
Yeah, that one takes, kind of, it's always assumptions as well. Like you're kind of anticipating the question or anticipating a question that might come. Um, yeah, that's also, it's a kind of a read the room thing, I guess, like a read a personality kind of thing, which is again something that, sometimes you hit on the head, you hit the nail on the head, but sometimes you hit your thumb. So,
So,
yeah.
but so you got your journey into the worlds of documentation seems like you were influenced when you were young as a child.
Yeah, I loved writing
And
ever since I mean, I loved drawing up until I was, up through high school. And then it kind of morphed into more like writing, like a more communicative
and
aspect.
then how did that and obviously you were in Seattle at this point, right?
Yep, yep, still in the Seattle area.
And
Yeah.
then so what prompted you to say, okay, Japan's where I want to be?
So I took Japanese in high school for 4 years. I was not the best student.
But that's pretty impressive. And I'm surprised that they offered it.
Yeah, it was actually, yeah, not a lot of schools at that time, not a lot of schools offered it. It was just kind of out of luck that yeah, the high school that I went to had a really great teacher who actually, I'm actually friends with now, like on Facebook and things like that. And she came to Japan, I think must have been like 6 years ago now, and we met up, and it was just like a weird moment that I was not the best student in her class, but I was, I think, from what I remember, like the only one who has stuck with the language and actually moved here. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. But um yeah, so yeah, kind of yeah, after that, yeah, kind of getting into the world of documentation after that, it was really yeah, I took like a technical writing class in university.
Mm.
And yeah, that just kind of like reinforced my idea of like, oh yeah, obviously the writing aspect is really what I was going for.
Yeah.
Um, it was funny, like at that time I was majoring in English literature, and my goal was to get like a teaching certificate, and then kind of move up to get like a master's degree because I wanted to teach like, university level courses on writing,
Yeah.
and grade papers and things like that.
Yeah.
But then I kind of found out like, oh wait, like when I took the technical writing course, I realized, oh, there's actually a job where you can actually, do the writing and do the editing, and for other people to consume that stuff.
Mm.
And that's kind of when I switched. I actually kind of abandoned the teaching certificate, and just went straight for the English literature um, major. And then right after that, I moved to Japan to teach English for it was really short. It was only like about 3 or 4 months. So, and that was kind of a dream of mine was to like live in Japan because yeah, I'd been here once, visited for, about a couple of weeks and just like, oh wow, this place is just totally different than America.
Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, coming from the US and suddenly landing in Japan, it's
Right.
a different world.
Yeah.
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 And I don't mean that lightly. I mean, just, you could talk about the cities and how busy they are, then take a stroll in the back streets and it suddenly becomes quiet.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 So that was yeah, so yeah, after I moved here, yeah, I moved here, had a family kind of emergency uh issue, I guess. And so I ended up moving back home to be with family. And then when I was there, I found a job fairly quickly in a marketing agency that had a lot of tech clients, which because of the Seattle area, the biggest client was Microsoft, and then we
Mm.
had some, like other players like I think yeah, LinkedIn at the time, and then Seagate, yeah, and some other tech companies. And yeah, I started there as a kind of editorial assistant, just proofreading case studies mostly, but things like white papers, data sheets, presentations, yeah, things like that. And yeah, that's kind of really where I gained a lot of skill. I was there for 5 years and or oh, sorry, almost five. Oh, wait. No, it was 5 years. It was 5 years. And yeah, I learned a lot there from everything from like the editorial aspect, like the different levels. We would always have three levels of editing there, all different levels. So you have like the major editing, you have the substantive editing, and then you have a kind of like the proofreading aspect of it. And usually I would be involved with once I got more kind of senior there, I would be responsible for the different aspects. So maybe at the beginning I would only do the proofreading. At the end I would do or near the end of my time there, I would do the more developmental editing. So like
Okay.
really getting into the document and making sure that it follows like for example like Microsoft's case, following their rules, their style, the
Mm-hmm.
voice, the company voice, Microsoft's voice, not the writer's voice, but the actual company Microsoft's voice.
Yeah, there's a bunch of every company seems, as you grow, they have their own style guides and writing guides. Yeah, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. But so did you learn most of what you currently know there at that company?
I would say yes, because yeah, that had a really big influence on me because yeah, Microsoft has an incredible style guide, which is publicly available now on their site. Anybody who has interest in writing or making, consistent voice, or even just wanting to know like is host name one or two words, for example, you can go there
Oh,
and find an
okay, yeah,
answer for a
that's
lot of
interesting.
things. Yeah.
So this was again, you went to Japan, you did a brief stint in teaching,
Mhm, mhm.
and then unfortunately had a family emergency, had to go back to the US, and then you were working in the US at this point.
Yes. Yeah.
And then what took you back to Japan and what was the timing of that? Because that seems, I see a lot of people that do travel and then once they're back in the States, they're back in the States, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But there must have been like something like nagging at your heart to say, I want to go back to Japan. But yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I moved back here, that was in 2000, or sorry, when I moved from Japan back to the US, I think that was in 2007. And I feel like almost immediately after I moved back home, I thought like, oh, I should have stayed in Japan. I should have stayed. I waited, like what? I mean, if we count high school, I feel like I waited a good, 7 years to move to Japan, and all I could handle was 3 months, you know.
But what was it about the experience that you had that you wanted to go back so bad?
Really, it was really just it's a different place. Like I can't really describe it very well. Like I'm not like I mean I like probably the thing I like about Japan is like the cultural aspect, like the people, the history, things like that. So for me it was just like, like oh, it's a place that's so different from where I grew up in that like I feel like I wasn't able to like experience that completely.
Hmm.
So I just had kind of this regret that I didn't tough it out. you know.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, the company that I'd been working at for 5 years, unfortunately, just really economic conditions at that time, the company ended up kind of having to cut, um, yeah, pretty much, yeah, everybody almost, I think.
Was this during Lehman?
That was a very tough moment for the company. Yeah, during kind of the financial, yeah, Lehman shock kind of thing. Like the company toughed it out then, but it really just, yeah, companies were still kind of trying to, cut expenses and things like that. So yeah, I ended up going under, I think, sorry, not going under. They went a little bit more independent in 2012.
Okay.
And it was kind of around that time that I was thinking, like, oh, what if, well, maybe moving back to Japan is a possibility, I'm almost at that time. I was like, oh, I'm almost 30. I feel like I need, if I want to act, I got to do it now.
That's pretty cool, and that's very interesting because similarly in our last chat with Akon, right? He was basically said, okay, I need to get my PhD in order to live in the US. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna go get my PhD. I'm like, it's not an easy decision to say, okay, I'm gonna leave my country to go to another country.
Yeah. Because he
Yeah.
went to Australia, right?
You went to Australia. Yeah.
Australia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that yeah, definitely don't take lightly. And,
I mean, you did basically the same thing. You're like, okay, back to Japan.
yeah.
Or it's not exactly back to Japan because you can't just go there. You have to have a job. And so you went back and you ended up getting a job and where did you work when you first went back?
Yeah, so luckily it took me, just a couple of months to find a job once I moved back there, or sorry, back here. And yeah, I started working in kind of the the what is it, like the global tech support at Ricoh, the kind of printer,
Okay.
multi-printer, uh,
That's a huge company.
yeah, multifunctional printer company. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was cool. It was yeah, that was also a very good experience because I had I had like the job that I had to do since I was on contract. Um, but it was
Where,
flexible enough.
where,
Yeah.
where was that?
That was in Omori, the Omori area of
Okay.
Tokyo. So kind of close to Shinagawa.
Okay. Where were
Yeah.
you living at that point?
At that time I was living in Yokohama.
Okay, so that's over an hour commute, basically.
Yeah, door to door it was about, yeah, door to door is like about 1 hour total.
So you did the whole rush hour thing and
Did the whole rush
yeah,
hour
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Getting pushed
Yeah.
in the trains. Yeah.
Yeah, not exactly like what you see like on YouTube where you have like the staff pushing you in, but
Yeah.
everybody's gently nudging themselves to get the perfect angle on the train. So
Yeah.
some days you're standing like this, but some days you're standing like this, and you're just hoping that nobody else falls into you too hard.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember one day I was so stuffed in a train because I lived in Yokohama too. As I let go, my backpack it was in one hand. I just let it go, and it floated there in between,
right.
supported by like 20 people, right?
Yeah.
I just left it, and when I was about to get off, I just grabbed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Didn't have to hold it. Yeah,
Yeah. I've seen where some folks they really need to look at their phone, so they kind of just rest it on somebody else's shoulder and I think, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. But
but it's funny because it's not. It's not like some parts. If you did that in New York, you just, you get yelled at. But
yeah,
in Japan, everybody just lets it go.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it actually, I think honestly, it creates a little bit more space when you have your hands up a little bit, right?
yeah,
Like if you have 10 people who have their hand, at least one hand up, you could probably fit one 1.2 more people in there.
yeah. That's funny. So you did that whole commuter thing, and
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, that
and
was
then did you have to work really late, or how was the work-life balance back then?
oh, back then, no, it was totally fine. So like yeah, so that job I was on contract, so I really only did overtime, like staying late. Pretty rarely. And when I did, it wasn't really that long, maybe 30 minutes, if even that.
Okay.
So, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And then from there, what took you to the next step and the next step and
Yes.
finally the scalar?
Yeah, yeah. So after that, I kind of was, I kind of part of me wanted to kind of explore the world of um, agency work again, kind of like
Mm,
the
mm.
marketing agency that I worked at when I was living back in Seattle. So yeah, there was a company that was hiring, so I decided to give that a try. I was there for 2 years. It was a little bit different than what I was expecting. I wasn't doing exactly kind of the editing,
Mm.
the rewriting aspect. I was doing kind of more project management, which involved sending documents that needed to be edited over to somebody else to edit them, and then I was kind of managing their work. So it
Okay,
was,
but that was a new skill and yeah,
yes, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, definitely the project management aspect was a new skill because I never really had somebody to like delegate work to, and then pick up things. So that was a good experience. And then that person actually lived in Seattle as well, so we had a good connection that way. And it kind of, yeah, I kind of had to like manage their work knowing that they were on a totally different time zone than us in Japan. So,
So just so you know, I know there's a lot of people that are probably really interested in traveling to Japan and not just
mm.
traveling, but probably working in Japan, right?
Hmm.
Um, and you had 4 years of Japanese,
Hmm.
and your Japanese is very fluent. You could read and write, but from your perspective, if you have a skill like in documentation, English documentation, or technical, what do you think the prospects are of somebody looking for a job in Japan, like a new grad or somebody that has experience?
Um, it's for documentation, for English documentation Japan, I will be very honest and say it's difficult.
I
But
mean, there
it's
aren't many. There aren't many.
there's not many, and it's maybe okay, difficult is the right word in my opinion, but it's lately it's been a lot, I guess, better. Like there are more opportunities now than there were 13 years ago, for example, when I first moved here.
I
And
mean, when I was in Japan, it was right after the tsunami hit, and all the
mhm,
foreigners had left, or most of
right,
them.
yeah, yeah.
And uh, when I went back years later for work, I
Mm,
found that there were so many more foreigners there,
right.
non-Japanese people in all different technical fields. And once in a while, I'll meet somebody that's a Java programmer or Python or whatever
Mm,
who hardly speaks any Japanese,
mm.
but still working at a Japanese company.
Sure, sure. That's
Yeah. Do you still see any of that or?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, especially let's see. Yeah, yeah, I feel like especially in the past probably 4 years maybe. Yeah, there's a lot of that because there's a lot of like Japanese companies want to hire, you know, especially ones that are growing, they want to be able to hire kind of the best people. So they kind of naturally look overseas. And it's kind of a tall, it's a big ask to require somebody overseas to have like, really any level of Japanese speaking
Mhm.
or comprehension ability. So yeah, you still definitely run into folks who, they're a lot of people that I met, they do try their best to study,
Yeah.
to try to do the
Yeah.
daily stuff. But yeah, a lot of people have families. It's kind of hard to study. And honestly, you can get around Japan fairly well, not knowing, fluent level Japanese. Now, if you want to kind of integrate with society, that's kind of where it gets tricky if you don't, uh, speak a fair amount. So,
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting aspect of Japan is what I find is the entry is easier than a lot of people think, right?
definitely. It,
Yeah.
I think the hard part, it was for me in the beginning too, is that like naturally, naturally, like before, I don't know, I'm a pretty shy person.
Mm.
So when I first moved here, I could never walk into, I couldn't even go into a restaurant by myself to eat. because I just felt like, oh, I would never do that back home. Why would I do that here? But you kind of see a lot of people eating by themselves, so it kind of made me feel comfortable.
Aren't there places now where you go and you have your own little like secluded, almost like a cubicle where you're eating?
I've seen that, I think, for like a ramen place.
Yeah, I've seen ramen places like that, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I've only seen them on YouTube, but you live there, so yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't seen them in person, no. Yeah. I haven't seen any like secluded places in person that I can think of.
I know there's piano bars and jazz bars where it's you have to be silent.
Yeah, yeah. There's kind of a jazz bar that I like going to near my place now that you can talk, but you shouldn't be too loud, you know. The owner won't say anything, but it's kind of, people go there to listen to the music. So
They'll just politely say, "Please don't come back."
right, yeah, I know, or give you the look. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
sure you have your, every genre of music. You could find a bar
yeah,
that supports that.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, that's funny. So yeah, sorry, I went tangential there. But
No, it's all good. Yeah.
so you worked at the marketing firm as that's interesting because now you're doing some PM stuff.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely helped. Well, actually, even so, after I worked at the kind of the marketing agency, I went to another Japanese company called Rakuten, which I think they have. I mean, I know that they have kind of they have presence in the U.S., Europe, things like that. So I went there and I was working on kind of the internal employee only like FAQ site.
So how did you get that work? Was it through an introduction or were you looking openly or
I was looking at that time because I'd been at the marketing agency for 2 years. So I was looking and I wanted to get back into kind of tech again. Um, Regardless of kind of what capacity, I was kind of thinking like, oh, like tech. And then this opportunity opened up, which was again within like a support division, which I'd experienced before at when I was
yeah.
at Rico. So I just thought like, oh, sounds like a good opportunity. And yeah, I just applied through the website and thought I would never hear back because the company's really, really big. So
Huge, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, heard back. I went through the interview process. Yeah, and then yeah, I worked in the support division. That was very interesting because yeah, I learned a lot of skills there too. We used yeah, a bunch of tools that I'd never used before. Had to do PM stuff, had like other teammates that kind of we'd help each other, kind of give each other tasks. So I wasn't managing anybody, but we would kind of give each other tasks and things like that.
And it's a company with a strong English influence, right?
Yeah, yeah. So English is kind of maybe depending on the division that you're in. English is pretty much like the main language. And definitely in the kind of the corporate IT department that I was in, English was, yeah, pretty much spoken throughout by everybody. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that was a really good experience. Also because COVID hit right at that time too. So
Mhm.
suddenly everybody needed to be at home. Um, but they also needed to read kind of the internal FAQ portal to know how to do certain things.
Oh
So
yeah. I can
that
imagine. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. How do you log into your system? Tech support, customer
y-
support, everything.
yeah,
That's
I mean,
right.
how do you log in if you're not connected to, the company VPN, for example?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that, you kind of take for granted when you go into the office. You think like, oh, I'm on, the corporate network, do my work. But once you get home, you have to kind of manually connect, or maybe your connection, for some reason, the connection isn't connecting.
Yeah.
How do you troubleshoot that? You know,
Yeah.
um, so lots of challenges that I think we solved all the challenges, but we kind of had to start thinking ahead, like, oh, wait, this could happen, like, oh, like this piece of software, you know, only works like on our network, what happens if people are at home? Oh no, like how do we fix this immediately and come
Oh
up with
man, and I'm sure there were people on different types of networks and different types of ISPs
yeah.
and yeah. support for each one would have been,
Right.
yeah,
Different machines as well. So some people use
right.
Mac, some people use Windows,
Yeah.
some people use at that time I think Windows 7 was still supported. So yeah, it was yeah, I think it was a stressful time for everybody, but at the same time I think everybody learned so much during that
Yeah.
time. So yeah.
And then where did your journey take you from there?
After that, I went to another company called Mercari, which I believe also has a US
Yeah.
presence. And yeah, there I did a little bit, it was a little bit different. It was a technical writer position, but it was more about internal knowledge management. I think the role was a little bit more project management based, trying to get people on board with like documenting what their team is working on, documenting, design or knowing exactly, where people should put, like design docs so that other teams can access those design docs, or even that same team, maybe in 1 year could know exactly where the design docs are if the team kind of split up or kind of split up in the way that, they got separated into two different teams, for example. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was kind of like managing the knowledge of the product and engineering division in a
I find
way.
that's hard to do because you're doing knowledge handoff, right?
Yeah.
Basically. And knowledge handoff is really, I think it's biased and subjective. And because the person, let's say, it's a sales handoff, it's the way that individual salesperson handled the customer and
Mm.
treated the customer. And not everybody's the same, right?
Right,
So
right.
that's interesting. And from a work perspective, even using your day-to-day apps, people use it slightly differently. So that's an
Mm.
interesting take. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely a big challenge because, some people, I mean, I think we're all the same way. Like, we have a tool that we feel comfortable using, um, and it's kind of hard to force people to use a different tool,
Yeah.
whether it's one person or it's a division of like 350 people or 400 people.
Yeah.
Um, so it was, I think especially now when you have like, if you start putting AI into the equation, it was really just making sure that you document everything just so that it's somewhere. And at least it's going to be somewhere and we can kind of just, especially now you can kind of just pick up the pieces and have something kind of aggregate all of that information.
That'd be interesting. You have all these documents that you've written out there.
Hmm.
I think we talked about this before, but it's like, I don't know, how many millions of words have you put out there, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, how long has it been since you started your career in documentation?
Um, Even like the marketing aspect of documentation, that was in 2007, so 18 years.
So 18 years multiplied by, I don't know,
My goodness.
enormous number of words. It's probably millions of lines.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you include those deleted ones, the the
Yeah.
deleted lines, the
Yeah.
lost documents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which might not really be lost. It might be laying out there somewhere. But what I
That's
was thinking was, can you imagine having all those documents and then saying, okay, this is how Josh Wong wrote everything.
right,
And AI would go through it now, right in my voice,
right.
right?
That's
Yeah.
actually why I've been being more being actually super interested, but also being a little bit more strict with myself on writing notes.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's good.
Because all of my notes are written in Markdown, and it's kind of structured in a certain way, which they have like front matter, like metadata properties inside of the notes as
Oh,
well.
so you write, when you say you write, you're actually taking notes on a computer.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Yeah.
yeah. So I've got a good 1,800 notes, 1,900 notes maybe, that I can just feed to an LLM,
Oh, wow.
and ask it, whether the responses are good is another story.
Yeah,
I haven't had too much success on that with certain models, but it'll get there.
yeah,
So, but the same
I'm
of
sure.
thinking applies to knowledge management within a company as well.
Yeah,
I think there's some concerns with that, around like the privacy aspect, but there's ways that you can kind of mitigate those risks.
yeah.
So. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to touch back on that subject. Um, but again, I went tangential, and we're trying to get you to. I think you're trying to get there, but I keep interrupting.
Yeah,
So you did the Rakuten Mercari,
mhm.
and then was that when you finally joined Scalar
Yes.
after
Yeah, yeah.
Mercari?
So right, right. So after Mercari, I joined Scalar. So I was at Mercari for almost, I think it was like a little more than a year and a half.
Okay.
And then yeah, this opportunity at Scalar came up, and yeah, it just sounded super interesting. Obviously, like we all deal with data at work, so in all of our jobs, whether we kind of actively think about it or not. Um, so like the idea of kind of working at a company that kind of makes data management solutions was kind of like really interesting to me because I couldn't really like, I couldn't completely imagine how it would work. Like I had some experience, like, in like the blockchain aspect. So when I read about kind of Scalar DL, I thought like, oh, this sounds really similar to what blockchain is, except for there's some nuances that don't make it the same as blockchain. And it actually
Yeah.
sounds a little bit more um, better, or it sounds a little bit more appealing as like a use case.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, kind of like a tamper evident kind of system. So yeah, yeah, that's what really kind of yeah interests me about Scalar. So that's the reason why I thought like, oh, hey, new opportunity, new chance. Um, yeah, new chance to learn something. I'll learn a lot of things. So
Who interviewed you when you came in? Was it
Hero.
Hero?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. CTO slash CEO,
Yeah.
co-CEO. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was like the defining moment of yes, I'm going to join Scalar?
You know,
All for you.
For me, I mean, honestly, just talking to Hero and hearing what he had to say, kind of, I read through and tried to understand at that time, like the papers that he's written
Yeah.
about, yeah, like Skater DB at the time. I think that was around the time that he was, I think, presenting at one of the conferences, maybe the VLDB conference. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was just yeah, it just sounded super interesting. The company sounded really interesting. The product sounded great. The issues that he kind of had in mind that he had in mind that he wanted to address also made sense. Um, and yeah, he was a really easy guy to talk to,
Mm.
and still is. So
He has the ability to describe things in layman's terms.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, that's what I really like. There's the way that he explained everything, and our interviews were in English too. So I
Yeah.
think to me that helped as well, because I mean I can speak some Japanese, but it's definitely a little bit more difficult when you need to speak in in industry specific
So I
terms.
like
The idea of challenges is, I mean, literally why I moved to Japan was because I was thinking, oh, I want like a new challenge. So
I mean, I see that. I mean, you went from going to a non-English speaking country from the US, you don't, but to go there, not as travel, but saying that, yep, I'm going to live there.
right,
I mean,
different,
that's the challenge that I was talking about that's similar to you and Acon, right? It's like,
right,
you
right.
know what? Yeah, I'm just going to go and I'll figure it out once I'm there, you
Yeah,
know?
just go for it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there was yeah, something maybe I mentioned in one of our other talks is the first time I moved here, I was talking to my grandfather and he said, like, oh, if it doesn't work out, you can always come back home. And
that's always
something
nice.
yeah, and that's something that I've always just, whether you're moving to another country or you decide you want to take a walk down to the beach, and you realize, oh, it's raining. Oh, well, I can always go back home.
Yeah.
Something that kind of has always stuck with me. So yeah, maybe not
So,
now because now I have permanent residence. So it's kind of, oh, I kind of want to stay in Japan for,
yeah, and you can.
yeah.
So now, where do you live now?
So now I'm living, yeah. So I guess just to show a quick timeline. So when I first moved to Japan, I was living in Yokohama. And then I moved up to Tokyo. and I stayed in Tokyo for about 9 years. And then last year I moved back down south, further south of Yokohama to a place called Fujisawa
Okay.
in Kanagawa. So it's um, kind of near like the Enoshima,
Nice.
Kamakura area.
I like Yokohama. I like the beachy towns. Kamakura's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, never been to Fujisawa, but yeah.
I feel like it's kind of more up and coming lately. I
Yeah.
think I think during COVID, quite a lot of people moved down here because
I
it's
mean, you mentioned like, and this is what I find fascinating about living in, basically Yokohama, Tokyo area is you mentioned that there's a bar that plays your kind of funk,
oh right, yeah.
right?
That
And you find that everywhere in Japan, especially in the larger cities, even in the suburbs. And you live, obviously, Fujisawa is a suburb, but
mhm.
you have your fair share of cool things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's great. Like I mean, Japan is a great place to like Japan's a great place to find a place to unwind.
yeah, I'm
So like
sure.
if you're
That's
having
that's interesting. Can you say that again?
Japan is a great place to find a place to unwind.
That's
I don't know how
really,
that just came to me.
really good. I'm going to use that. That actually makes sense.
It's because it's something like back when I was living in, like the US, for example, like there weren't that many places where I thought like, oh, work's done. I want to go here and just relax. Um, but there were times, I mean, there's been times, not too much now. It's a little bit harder. I'll explain that in a bit, but there are times like when I would finish work and it's like, oh, I just want to take take a book, maybe, have dinner or just grab like a beer somewhere and just sit there and just, eat or drink, have a drink while reading a book.
Yeah.
And it's possible to do that. It's really easy to do that without, having to think like, oh, where should I go? You just walk down the street. Oh, here's a place here. Just pop inside. Really easy to do that.
And I think I love living in the US and the Bay Area. It's great.
Mm.
And I feel like there's that uh piece of I say it's freedom of thought. Like
Mm.
if I want to go someplace, I just hop in my car and go, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But the one thing that I really miss about Japan is I could walk out my door and walk, you know, a couple hundred meters.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then there's the bar that I go to. There's the cafe that I go to. That's the hidden spot that there's always a seat for me. It's not
Right.
packed like some of the coffee cafes here.
Right. Right.
And like you said, you could read a book and sit down and just chill.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. I
Kind of to
think
draw
there's
like
so much of that there.
yeah, kind of to draw a parallel with that and like documentation in general is like, ideally documentation would be like this, but it's also very difficult to have it in this kind of way. But like taking the idea of like stepping outside and then just going somewhere, it's like when I step outside and I go for walks pretty often, like at night, just because I like just, decompressing that way.
Yeah.
To me, it's like a choose your own adventure. Like where am I going today? Oh, I have no idea. Let's just walk down this street. And documentation is kind of like that too, right? Like you kind of
That's
want to be
true.
able
The
to,
safety, you don't need to worry about that.
right? Yeah. And with documentation, it's kind of like, oh, you want people to be able to choose where they want to go, but still kind of be, well guided, in a certain way. Obviously, sometimes, when you're walking down the street, there's no street lights and you feel a little bit lost, but you know, after you get a
Yeah.
little bit familiar with things, then it's, oh, I've been here before. Okay, this makes sense now. This is where I'm supposed to be going.
That's an interesting take on documentation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just
A
take
good
some
analogy.
familiarity.
I think it only works because you're in Japan.
Right.
Yeah. Taking a midnight stroll here is a bit challenging.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I've taken midnight strolls, early morning strolls. When you miss the last train, and
Oh yeah.
you don't want to pay that taxi ride home, an hour and a half walk will wake you up.
Oh yeah. I remember missing the last train. Um, and I worked in Shibuya, but I lived in Ikebukuro.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a walk.
And so I walked that distance and it was 2.5 hour walk. I think two and a half, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
But
it was a good walk. And I get what you mean. And I never once did I ever feel like you know, I was under threat or in a dangerous situation.
right.
I think the only thing I felt was, oh, there's, a few drunk people and whether they're foreigners or Japanese salarymen, didn't matter. It's like, okay, they're not going to cause trouble. They're just going to, you know, want to hang out with you type of thing, right?
Right.
They're just going to want to drag you into a bar or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I've had those experiences and I thought, oh no, no, I just want to go home.
Yeah. That's it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. I just brought back some memories about walking back to Ikebukuro
Yeah.
after a long night. Yeah.
Those are good. I mean, that's kind of the whole, like living in Japan too. It's just like the experiences that, you would, very rarely have, living, whether you live in the US or I'm sure like kind of the UK. It's kind of like that too. Maybe Australia. Um, huh,
Yeah, I
maybe
feel
Europe.
that Japan's one of those places where you don't need to live there long and your personality would change.
Sure. Yeah.
And in a you would find that peace, right? Walking the back streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned like, yeah, you wouldn't need to live here long to kind of pick up on some of that stuff. Like one of the things that I noticed when I first moved here was like, yep, I'm the guy who bows on the phone. When
Yeah.
somebody says something, I kind of go like, I go like, oh,
Yeah.
I bow. They can't see
That's
me,
funny.
but
Yeah. Even just you're walking down the street and if it's a clean street and there's a piece of garbage, you might pick it up and throw it away. You're not gonna walk, ignore
I,
it type of thing.
I did that today actually.
That's fun. That's
It was like a
hilarious.
plastic bottle, and I thought like, well, I don't want to hold on to it the whole time. But when I looked over, I was like, oh, there's like actually there's a vending machine right there, and it's got a little garbage next to it. And I just like popped it in the garbage because it was around the area that I live in, and all I could think of is like, oh, I want my area that I live in to be clean, you know.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that kind of seeps into you.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah. I think people so what I think is even in the States, I'm sure depending on where you live, you're probably anywhere in the world, you're probably heavily influenced by your surroundings,
oh, for sure,
right?
oh yeah,
Right?
definitely,
I mean, it sounds like a silly thing to say, but then it's also goes into am I who I really am?
sure,
Right? When I
yeah,
go to Japan, I feel like I'm a different person. When I go to New York, I might be a different person. You
sure,
know,
yeah,
when I'm in San Francisco, I might be a different person.
yep, yep.
I might do things differently. Fundamentally, I'm the same, but then why do I change so much?
Sure. Oh, yeah, no, that totally makes sense to me. I feel that, I feel that fairly often sometimes. Even my wife will notice it and she'll be like, "Oh, just act yourself. Why are you acting a little bit different?" And I'm like, "Oh, because I don't know these, we'll go to a function, and I'm like, I don't know these people. And she's like, don't worry about it, just be
Yeah,
yourself. And then in the end, everything's fine. It's just that I feel like a little bit of nervousness sometimes
yeah.
with that aspect when I really shouldn't.
So, what aspects of now that you've lived there for so long, what aspects of Japan do you love?
I mean, kind of what we just talked about, like the convenience. I mean, the convenience of convenience stores, the convenience of just being able to walk around. I mean, yeah, I live a good hour and a half, or well, let's say an hour outside of, Tokyo, like Tokyo Station, for example.
How
But
long is
all
the
it takes
commute
is
for you?
what was that?
How long is the commute to the office?
To the office. So the office is a little bit off to the side from Tokyo Station, so it takes me door to door about an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, wow, that's one way.
One way, yeah.
So you're commuting 3 hours a day when you go into the office. Okay,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Okay.
At least 3 hours. Yeah, but
A lot of catching up on reading and yeah, podcasts.
yeah, definitely podcasts. I'm a huge podcast guy. Today is actually the first day in probably a good 6 months where I actually am at zero podcasts right now. I'm all caught up.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. But yeah, usually when I'm on the train, the first leg of my trip is up to Tokyo Station and it's a straight shot. And so I actually just hop on, I pay a little bit extra and I get a seat with like a kind of a fold down table.
Oh, nice.
And then I just do some work there and I can just work straight for a good, what is that? Yeah, like 50 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm able to kind of catch up on work for the first 50 minutes, and then I have to do a little bit of transferring. And yeah, and then I'm at the office, and then on my way home, might do the same, might get another seat and do some work on the way home, or I might just grab dinner and have it on the train on the way home, depending on what time it is. Yeah, so.
So I know we talk a lot about, how your journey and a little bit about the Japanese culture.
Mhm.
But I want to get to, one of the important questions about life and data, which is, data, right? And where you see data headed and your experience with data.
Yeah. Yeah, data. My goodness. I remember when I was at the job at Rakuten, every time the team that I was on was trying to make a decision, my boss would tell me, "Hey, we need data for this to show my manager, so that we can, you know, appeal to her and kind of get things moving." And to me, it took a while for me to kind of realize how important data is, like collecting the data, but also getting the data before it actually needs to be collected. Um, so, whether, it could be simple things like, like a Google Analytics, like unique page or unique visitors to a website, for example. That needs to be set up at the very beginning because otherwise you'll never be able to get that information.
Yeah.
Um, I mean that's a very basic level. I think most, if you run a website, you're probably collecting that information. But then you have, like apps, like we all use apps, or can't say all, but most people use apps, things like that. And yeah, apps need certain data, so whether, you're using Facebook or, you're using like a government app, things like that. It needs data in order to kind of function. Um, so that's kind of I really got really interested in that probably right around the time COVID started because I was kind of stuck at home by myself and I wanted to track how many times I left the house to get some exercise.
Yeah.
Um, so I created a little app, and that actually really got me learning about MariaDB, MySQL databases, how they connect to kind of like a web UI and things like that. Um, so once I realized that, I was like, oh, there's a lot of possibilities that you can do, like a lot of things that you can create. Even for me, somebody who's not uh, a professionally trained programmer. And so that kind of really just opened up my eyes, and I really started thinking like, wow, there's a lot of things you can do with data. And as time has gone on, obviously, especially lately with um, AI, LLMs, and things like that, RAG solutions. Yeah, there's the possibilities like mm, I don't want to say endless because there's limits on what people can do, limits on what people can do, but my goodness, there's a lot of opportunity to collect, well, not collect, like to use data. Um, One thing that I am actually even more interested about is actually it's talked about fairly often, right? Like how data is collected, like what kind
Yeah.
of data are we putting out there? That's something I'm really interested in because people do want to keep a level of privacy. Um, and obviously, when you use a product that is free, as they
Yeah.
say, you are the product in that case.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say I want my privacy, but I also want to use this free service. That's kind of there's trade-offs. There's trade-offs for that.
Yes.
But a lot of the companies now that are that kind of have that business model do have, they have mechanisms in place to kind of protect that data. Um, so for me, like that aspect is really interesting. yeah, being mindful
Yeah.
of kind of like what data is being collected, but also like what data is also being used. I think that's very important too. And to me, it's something that, like Scalar DB, especially can kind of like help manage,
Yeah.
help companies kind of manage that. So,
Yeah. That's interesting. And also, I guess it's something that I hit earlier, which was you have your own voice, right? And when you write and you have all these lines out there, I would I wouldn't like it if somebody took that data and just started creating, let's say, my own documentation or a novel or whatever it is based on somebody else's voice, right?
sure,
That
right,
should be your IP in essence,
right,
right?
right.
That
And that's
should be
kind of
your intellectual property. And I find that I think more as we progress, maybe perhaps we'll start um, protecting our own findings, right? Our
sure.
own findings equals data.
Yeah. Being a little bit more mindful of, kind of what we're putting out in the world, I guess,
Yeah,
especially with the social media, you can kind of just, before maybe like 10 years ago, you'd say something and it would just be out there forever. You'd think nobody's going to read this. I have two followers. One is my mom, you know, like nobody's going to read this except for what, 17 years, seven, no, yeah, I guess like 13 years later, almost 13, 14 years later, it's like, oh no, that data is not only being used, it's actually being actively read and actively consumed by people,
yeah,
that you thought maybe would never use it, which sometimes can be a good thing, but also sometimes, you see, you know, the younger generations these days, maybe said something that they shouldn't have on X long time
yeah.
ago. And
I
that's
mean,
kind of
I think
cool.
that's bound to happen.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have two kids, and I don't know how I'm going to teach them. I could either say never post anything,
Right.
which is unrealistic.
Yeah.
I could teach them, try to be careful,
Mhm.
but the mistakes happen sometimes,
Right.
or you get emotional and you just want to say something.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think most people who've used social media, for example, have said things that maybe they deleted because they thought like, oh, this isn't it. This is not me.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, that I mean that kind of aspect is interesting. Like the more the privacy aspect is
yeah,
very interesting. Um, but yeah, I mean, I collect my own data just to see how it's used, for example, like
that's pretty cool.
just to see like, oh, like what
I can't believe you built your own app to
I,
figure out how many times you left the house and track that. That's pretty cool.
that was so cool. I don't know. I To me that was just so cool. Like I set up a QR code right next to the door, and I've since like probably 2006 or 2000 when I first moved to Japan, it was like I saw a QR code and I thought like I have to scan that. Like I have to scan that, which
Oh, you have to
nowadays,
watch out for
yeah,
some of them.
exactly. Yeah, nowadays,
Yeah,
that's probably not the best thing, but seeing it like at a restaurant, I thought like, oh, I have to scan this, so scan it. It's like a promotion. But yeah, when I had that set up kind of in my apartment, I would scan it and it would basically not log me out, like say that I left the house,
yeah,
and then I would get back home and I would scan it again and it would say like yeah that I'm back home, but it would log log the location, which I guess you don't really need because you're at home. Um, but it also logged yeah like the time, the day of the week, obviously the date. Um, yeah, I think it was like those four, like yeah, I think it was like those four different things.
that's interesting.
Log it to a database, and then
Yeah,
I kind of thought like, oh, well, what could I use that information somewhere else? And I think I set up like a Grafana dashboard that showed, like the days, like which days were popular for me to go outside.
yeah.
And I tried to make it like, okay, so I forget exactly, but it was like maybe like a Tuesday. I didn't go outside that much. So in my mind, I would think, okay, gotta go out on Tuesday. Gotta go out on Tuesday.
That's cool. It makes you accountable.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
was thinking more like you could have fun with it. You could print out QR codes to your favorite bar and post it outside one of the poles. And every time you go there, you QR yourself in, right? And the database records, oh, yep, Joshua's been here for 4 hours, right?
Yeah, that okay. So
Yeah.
when you said that, I have a bit of an embarrassing story to make to tell. When I was working at the marketing agency in the Seattle area, I really, really wanted to work at Microsoft just
Yeah.
because growing up hearing about them. And they had a QR code kind of competitor called Microsoft Tag. And it was same idea as a QR code, more just I guess yeah, Microsoft proprietary one. And I went to their, I think it was like their HR headquarters, and I stuck a Microsoft tag, like the scannable QR code, on. I put it somewhere, and it was a link to my resume.
That's
But
funny, but that's cool.
yeah, it was
I
just the
think
idea.
I've actually I don't think that's a embarrassing story. I've seen that on cards now, where
Oh,
students have their resume online and they just hand out their card, and everybody's got a phone now, so they just scan it. You're probably like 10 years ahead of your time.
right. Yeah, yeah. Actually, at the same time, around the same time, I had started up like a very small, like kind of a Japanese translation company at the time. And uh the all the business cards had QR codes on them for yeah, just the website. So but yeah, it's just one of those things that's kind of I actually just suddenly remembered because I remember like, oh, what was I thinking? Like nobody's gonna scan that. It's just a random tag or yeah,
That's
QR
fun.
code. So
Somebody's gonna find it after watching this.
no, yeah. Actually, I don't even know if Microsoft Tag is still around. I think they might have deprecated that, but I'm sure I still have I'm sure I still have it saved somewhere. Might have to
That's funny.
revisit that.
That's hilarious. Yeah, but yeah, great chatting with you today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks for making
Sorry,
time here.
it went way over what we expected, so sorry about the time.
Ah, no.
But um, it's not over yet. I
Sure.
have to
Yeah.
ask four really, really important questions.
All right, here we go.
All
Here we
right.
go.
So I know I already prepped you for these questions, but so first question is, what is your favorite food?
Favorite food in Japan. That would be
Or anywhere, but your favorite food.
okay, I'll give you two. I'll give you two. So since I'm living in Japan right now, my favorite food is broiled eel over rice.
Unagi. Unagi
Una,
no.
unagi,
Unaju.
unaju,
Oh, I missed
unadon.
that.
Oh, it's so I actually need to. I was talking to my wife. I need to buy some. Like
You
we
know,
need to
it's
buy
it's
some.
12:30 now. You're gonna talk me into just I'm gonna have to make some ramen or eat something
Some kind of
after
comfort
this.
food. Yeah, um
So
my
unaju
unaju. Yeah, it's just something. It's
at
something I've never.
home or at a restaurant?
Recently I've been actually making it at home. Um, just
Oh
because
wow.
you can get kind of some pretty good stuff online shipped from different parts of Japan.
Oh wow. Nice.
So but I'll never say no to a restaurant. I'll never say no to paying somebody else to cook for me.
I mean, they have restaurants, just that's all they do.
Yeah.
Unagi, yeah. Yeah,
And it's the experience is just, yeah, it's obviously way better than what you can do at home. It's just the whole experience that,
that's awesome.
yeah.
And they
Um,
use the little, charcoal grill with
yeah.
the skewers, and then they flip it around, and yeah,
Yep.
and they pour the sauce on and put it on top of the rice. Yeah,
It's picturesque. It's
yeah.
Instagram-ish, as the kids would say.
So what's your other one?
My other one, for the US side, I have to go local. I gotta go local. The first meal that I have when I get off the plane, when I go back home, is a place in Seattle called Ivar's Fish and Chips.
Bruce fish and chips, and
Yeah.
it's the fish and chips.
It's the fish and chips.
Okay,
I think it's the cod and chips, uh, a two-piece cod and chips with a side of clam chowder. maybe
And what
some.
do you do that with, vinegar or tartar?
I'm a tartar sauce guy,
All right, no, that's
and
all good. Yeah.
Ivar's has incredible tartar sauce.
So where is it? Is it a chain in Seattle or is it just one spot?
Oh yeah, they've got a chain. I think the main one, I think is what you would call it, is down on. I don't remember the number of the pier, but it's down on the pier, like down by Puget Sound on the water. Um, then they've got some Lake Washington in Renton. Um, yeah, and they've got some other locations too. The ones that I've been to.
We gotta do a clam chowder like cook off.
Well,
I'm in the Bay Area, right?
let's do
And
it,
some of the
man.
best clam chowder I've had was here. Some of the best clam chowder is Boston, but
Oh yeah.
I've never had Seattle clam chowder. So
Something tells me like Boston has like the undisputed clam chowder. I don't know why.
it's good.
Okay, that's
But I don't particularly like clam. I don't know if I'm gonna get slammed for this, but I don't particularly like clam chowder with potatoes in it. And there's a lot of clam chowder here that I've had that doesn't have it, and in Boston I've had clam chowder that doesn't have potatoes in it.
oh,
It's
okay, okay.
not that I don't like it, I just prefer not, you know.
Right.
Yeah. But that sounds good.
Yeah.
So Ivers, fish and chips.
Ivor.
All right,
Yeah. Ivor's fish and chips. Highly recommended. It obviously it's a guilty pleasure. It's
of course.
it's like a sit down fast food restaurant, but it's just like for me it's a comfort food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're ever up there, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so then next question
Yeah.
is what is your favorite song?
Favorite song.
That's a tough one.
Yeah,
If because I
favorites.
know you like music. I know you love music, so
Yeah. There's a song that I've listened to more recently. Probably I first heard it must have been 4 or 5 months ago. And it's like an 11-minute song called "Love Is the Message" by Yusuf Days, Alpha Mist, Mansur Brown, and Rocco Palladino.
is it jazz?
Yeah, it's kind of like a contemporary, like modern kind of
Okay.
jazz.
I mean, if it's that long, I'm assuming it has to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great because they all show off their musical ability. I feel like
Nice.
multiple times because the song is so long. And it's actually a live performance. So anybody watching this, I highly recommend watching it on YouTube. The live performance, they film it
Mention
at,
it again.
it's called Love is the Message.
Love is the message. All right, I'm gonna put that in Apple
Yeah,
Music.
and they recorded it, I think, at Abbey Road Studio. Abbey Road? Is that what it
Oh,
is?
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Abbey Road Studios is what it is. And yeah,
Back in the
incredible
UK.
song.
So they're British?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Incredible song. It's got a lot of feeling to it. And like watching them play, it just makes me think like, oh man, they're having so much fun doing this. It looks so cool.
Have you seen them live in Japan or
No, actually, I didn't realize that. I think Yusuf Days came to Japan, I think, fairly recently. I know that he actually recorded a set a few months ago that had Mount Fuji in the background.
okay,
Uh,
that's cool.
that 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 was also very kind of surreal looking thing too. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is really cool. Is this AI?
Japan's a huge jazz hub
Oh,
as
huge.
well.
Oh yeah.
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 There's so many purists, jazz purists, and just performers, and they take it to another level as well.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen some more recent performances by even some younger folks, like in their, like their mid 20s and into their 30s. So it's
Yeah.
it's alive and well over here for sure. The whole
Oh yeah.
jazz scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say everything. It's like punk, hip hop,
Right.
rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question is where's your favorite city or place to visit?
Favorite city. That one's really tough because part of me wants to say like home, like
Hmm.
Seattle,
Yeah.
more specifically the Renton area. Um, but you know, I mean, I really like Fujisawa where I live right now. It's especially in the summertime, it's the weather feels like it's always incredible here. You
How
go
close is it to the water?
from where I am, it's if I walk down there, it's probably about a good 40 minutes,
Okay.
45 minutes. But by bicycle, when I go, I usually take my bicycle, and it's 15 minutes maybe.
So not that bad. It's right down the road, basically.
It's actually a straight shot down there.
Oh,
So
wow. Nice.
I try to race the cars to see if I can get there faster than they can by
That's funny. So you
getting
get
to.
it, you get kind of the cool ocean breeze coming in.
It's like every day. Yeah, even
Oh,
today
that's
when I went
nice.
on a walk, it's
Yeah.
yeah, a little warm today, but with that breeze, it makes you totally forget that it's, you know,
Yeah. That's nice.
hot. So, but actually Yokohama, since it was, the city that I moved here, the second time that I moved here, um, yeah, there's something about Yokohama that I really like too. It's
I like Yokohama. It's so unique.
Yeah, the structures. Actually, I was just there last weekend with a friend just walking around, and the structures of the buildings are just so cool. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's almost like a east meets west type of, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's like I don't know, like when they opened up the ports, they came in through Yokohama from what I remember. And
Yeah.
it just feels like like once the ports opened up, they decided to build buildings, and those buildings are still here now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but it's still very Japanese culture, Japanese
Yeah.
society.
Like the
But
Akarenga Soko,
oh, I
right?
love that. The
Yeah.
yeah, the red brick warehouse is
Yeah.
just
That's
so
that's
cool.
that is really cool.
So cool there.
So that's cool. So yeah, you that's good. Not many people get to live in their favorite city.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's awesome. So off to the final question, and
yeah.
then you could start your day.
Sure,
And
sure.
I'm gonna go cook up some. We don't have unagi, so I'm gonna
I
have to
might have
cook
to
up
do that
something.
too soon. Almost
But
dinner time.
what is your favorite word or phrase?
Favorite word or phrase? Yeah, I'll probably go. I'll give you two. The one that I mentioned earlier that my grandfather said that was like, you can always come back. I think that's a pretty powerful kind of message to me.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of like that just because it's true. Like if you decide you want to, like I mentioned, leave, move in it or live in a different country, or if you do something as simple as, you know, going out for a short day trip or something like that, and it doesn't plan out how you wanted it to. Yeah, you can always go back home. You can always, or you can always go back to, you know, mentally, you can always go back, kind of rebase yourself, go back to, where you need to be at mentally or physically. It's got a lot of meanings, which I really like. So yeah, it's very cool.
Good.
Maybe another one is, um, yeah, I might have mentioned it. Probably said it a few times. I know I definitely said it today when I was talking to a relative back home. But come on, man, come on, man.
Oh,
That one also lots of different meanings, For me, I
oh, yeah.
use it as a way to like, oh, come on, like, oh, you can do better. I say it to myself,
Yeah.
you can do better. You can do better.
See, that goes to show how like polite and well-mannered you are, right?
Yeah.
Because you choose the words "come on, man"
I,
instead
I'm
of other colorful language.
well, it's also a way to tell me like, like whatever's, if it's something that's bothering me, you know, it's a way of just being lighthearted about it and
Yeah.
not like, stressing myself out or yeah, it's just kind of
I mean, it's pretty chill, and you could use it in all different contexts.
right, exactly.
It
Yeah.
could be used if you're upset at something. It could be used to motivate somebody,
Right,
you
right.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
One,
even say
yeah.
just jokingly, like to the dog, if we're playing, and then he doesn't pick up the ball, I'm like, come on, man. It just means, just jokingly, like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Yeah. I feel like I like a lot of those words, like, it's up for interpretation, kind of
Like I think the Japanese language is very much intonation based in a lot of
right.
ways.
Like I keep getting this mixed up, but I think high context. No, no, sorry. Maybe low context is what it is.
Low
Like
context, yeah, low context, but you have to be able to read the room and
read between the
read
lines,
between the lines.
have an understanding of
Yeah,
the other side.
yeah. And a single word dependent on how it's pronounced
Right.
and how it's said could be, interpreted in a million different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's very much the same for the Japanese language too. Um, yeah, how you say a certain word. Like there's definitely times where actually a couple days ago when I was asked, "Oh, do I want the res or no, do I want a bag?" And I just said, "Okay." But that word for "okay" actually means I don't. In that context means, "Oh, I don't need one." And 9 times out of 10, people understand like, oh, it means that he doesn't need it. But I think maybe as a foreigner, the joke among foreigners is foreigners say the word okay way too much, which is daijobu. So when I said it, the staff asked me like, does that mean you don't need one or you do need one? And so I kind of said like, oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, I don't need one, you know.
Yeah. I think from a data perspective, collecting all that like text data, and you can't literally translate it. You have to understand the context of the language and the culture and where it was said and yeah, everything.
Yeah, that's a tough one that I wonder if yeah, I'd really like to kind of mess around with like AI models that use the reasoning because I
Yeah.
feel like that would play quite a bit into the reasoning aspect of LLMs lately.
Yeah, I wonder if there's I need to look into it, but I wonder if there's completely different reasoning models based on culture,
Right. Yeah.
right?
That sounds like a
Cultures
really
and subcultures, cultures within cultures, There's
right. Right. Yeah, like somebody, like Bay Area kind of context is going to be totally different from like context down in like Atlanta, Georgia, for
yeah,
example. The way that you say things and understand.
certain words, although it has a negative meaning, can have a positive meaning depending on who's saying it.
Right, yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
that's not even getting into like the differences in generations too, right? Like,
Yeah, you're right. I
what was it
mean,
like the
my kid
1970s?
comes home and says something, and I have no idea what he's talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it was like the 70s, I think. People were saying like, "Oh, man, that's wicked." But no, no, sorry. Maybe that was the 90s in skateboard
I
culture.
think that is 90s.
Yeah. That's wicked, man. But wicked doesn't mean good. So how
Yeah.
do, you know,
I mean, 80s was bad, right? That's so bad. That's
oh, that's
bad,
right. Michael
right?
Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah. In Japan has the same thing, yabai, right?
Yep, you're right. You're right. Yep, yep.
And but then, an older person hearing that might think, "Oh, it's a danger. It's dangerous. What's dangerous?"
Right.
Whereas the younger generation means, "Oh no, that's cool."
It's
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's
Yeah,
interesting, like how do LLMs, for example, like interpret that information, because if
yeah, that'd be an interesting study. Yeah, I'm sure as time progresses, you might have an AI that's like, right, talking like a 15-year-old Japanese kid and an LLM that talks like a 40-year-old,
oh, I'm
IT
sure that
professional and an LLM that talks like somebody in finance or whatever. Yeah,
oh, I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure somebody's kind of playing around with stuff like that as
I'm
we
sure.
speak.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on the show, and hopefully, folks watching this who are thinking about going into Japan just for work, it's not that difficult of a leap.
Right. Yeah, it just takes, some perseverance, the love of challenges and an open mind, I think.